Hello and welcome back to A Different Life, my YouTube channel about sailing and living on my sailboat, a Moody 47. Today's episode we're going to go up the mast. I have a reason for doing that. I don't just go up the mast voluntarily whenever I feel like it, although the exercise is good exercise. No, what happened was in one of the storms in the late winter, my tricolour masthead light, the combination of the navigation lights and the anchor light, disappeared from the top of the mast. So it lost its way in a storm, never to be found again. So I'm going up to have a look at the damage, see what's left of it. There'll be a base still attached to the masthead. Take some dimensions and look to see what's involved in going up again with the new masthead tricolour in order to fit it. So today's episode's all about climbing the mast. I'm kind of lucky. I've been up several masts in the last probably 20 years of my life. I've been up over 50 different masts. This mast on this boat, to my delight, has fold-out steps. So I don't need to fall back on my earlier life climbing experience and use my self-propelled, foot-propelled, leg-propelled way of getting up a mast, which I used to do. Because in this case I've got pull-out steps, which I'm just going to ascend, get to the top of the mast, have a look and see what's left of the old tricolour unit, take some measurements and get such that I can get prepared for fitting the new one. So it's all about going up and down the mast. It's not something I recommend to those that are of faint heart. As I mentioned earlier there, I'm an ex-climber and I've done a lot of both ice climbing and rock climbing, as well as general mountaineering and hill walking, all of which I love and still do, but not as actively as once upon a time. But I'm turned 70 years old, so going up and down a mast is not generally for people in my age group unless you're pretty fit. So without any further meandering verbally, we're going to get in about it and I'll give you an insight into what it's like to go up and down the mast. I'm going to have two cameras on this job, one situated on the deck at the front of the boat, viewing the whole mast, and you'll be able to see from that me climb up the mast and disappear into the distance up in the sky. And the other one I have strapped to my head, so you'll see the live minute by minute experience of going up the mast. The mast on this boat's 20 meters high. That's about the same height as a 6-story building, so it's not a small mast. And by the time you're up at the top, you feel like you're a good ways up there. So here we go. So here's the view of the mast, a two-spreader mast with the radar and the radar reflector mounted on the front of the mast. We'll go past these on the way up. So traditionally in the world of climbing masts, people use things called bosun's chairs, used by riggers and etc. With my background as a climber, when I first went up a mast using a bosun's chair, I couldn't believe how dangerous it was. In a bosun's chair, if you lean backwards and let go, you fall out to your death. So I don't use a bosun's chair. I use a climbing harness. With a climbing harness, if I can't fall out of it, and I put my own safety line up and ascend that safety line with the safety line running through a thing attached to my climbing harness, a little device called a Grigri 2. And a Grigri 2 is a climber's piece of climbing apparatus, and it has this unique capability of you can pull the rope with you as you go upwards, and the rope slides easily through this little device attached to your climbing harness. But if you were to let go of the rope and just dangle, then it automatically locks and you do not fall. So if you're up there and something happens, and let's say for example you suddenly went unconscious, what would happen is you would instead of falling, the Grigri device would grip the rope and you would dangle there. And because you're in a climbing harness, you can't really fall out of it, unlike the bosun's chair. So the way I do things is much more safe than the traditional rigger's way of doing things, which I only ever used once and realised that I much prefer living to dying, and there's no way I'm going to ever use a bosun's chair climbing harness is safe and sensible. So that's the way I do it. I as I say, I put my own line up to the top of the mast. I attach that line through the gree device, which is attached to my harness, and then I get on with it. So as you can see, I'm pulling out the fold-in steps. When you unfold them, they form a step. When they're folded in, they're great. They're out of the way. They don't catch on the sails at all or anything like that. So really neat steps. These ones are made from cast aluminium. When I used to live in the States, I could only find these steps made in a kind of nylon material which degrades in the sunlight, but these being cast aluminium, i.e. metal, will not degrade in the sunlight. So I love these steps. They were on the boat when I bought the boat, but had they not been, I would have added them to the mast, because it just makes climbing a mast so much easier when you've got these steps. As you can see, I reach up, I pull a step out, and I just worm my way up using the steps all the way up the mast. When you get to the spreader, it's a little bit more awkward, particularly the second spreader, because the step has been stupidly installed right beside some of the ends of the shrouds, and you cannot get the step open. But generally speaking, it's a straightforward process, apart from going round the spreader, and in my case going round the radar and the radar reflector. Now people might say, why don't you climb up the backside of the mast and avoid the radar and the radar reflector? And the reason for that, quite simply, is I don't have a spare line coming down that side of the mast. The line that I go up here is hoisted up to, and it goes up to the very front of the top of the mast. So I don't want to be ascending a line that's been, if you like, wrapped around the mast to be in the rear side. So I go up the front side, and it's an easy thing to film as well, because I've got the camera at the front of the boat with a fairly unobstructed view of the entire mast. You can see, I mean, the breathing's a little bit heavy at times. There's a subconscious nervousness when you climb a mast, because it is a very exposed position. On the other hand, I mean, I'm well gripped in there. I'm holding on to the steps as handles and standing on them on the way, and I am also attached via the safety line through the gree device on my harness, such that I won't go anywhere if something goes wrong and I fall. So looking at my progress from the camera situated in the front of the boat, you can see it's a relatively straightforward thing that's happening here. I'm going up the steps, gradually getting higher and higher. Later on, in a minute or two, you'll see some of the magnificent views that unfold as I get higher up the mast. I'm pausing as I go to pull the line through my gree, so the line above me is always taut. That way, if something does go wrong, I don't fall any distance because of a slack line. And it's a case of just getting on with it, going up the steps. It's, as I say, it's good exercise. I'm not a young fella anymore, sadly, but I still find this a relatively straightforward thing to do. But I do climb mountains still, and I do keep myself pretty fit as I can anyway. And it's always a great experience going up a mast. You get a bird's eye view of the world, and you know, I mean, it's one of these things, you either love it or you hate it. It's a bit like sailing in heavy weather. If some people come back after sailing in heavy weather with a picture of misery across their face, and other people like myself just love it when it's heavy weather and come back with an ear-to-ear grin and feel like they've lived life to the fullest. So, you know, it's all part of the self-sustaining lifestyle I lead on the boat, trying to do as much as I can for myself and be as self-sufficient in every kind of way to the extent that I can. Obviously, with regards to food, apart from protein that I catch from the sea, I'm kind of, I can't grow vegetables the way I would if I had a garden. But apart from that, I do pretty well. I generate my own electricity for at least 6 months of the year in the summer months. And, I catch my own protein from the sea, so I don't tend to have to buy much in the way of protein. So it's all about fresh veg and fruit. But I love this lifestyle, and this is icing on the cake, the views that I'm about to show you in a minute or two as we get higher up the mast. As I mentioned earlier, when you reach the spreader, in this case the lower spreader or the first spreader, it's a little bit more awkward getting past the spreader. You might have noticed earlier that the little step immediately underneath the spreader cannot be unfolded because the clown that first of all installed it when it was originally installed put it in a place that it's too close to the top of the shrouds. And hence the step cannot be unfolded. Kind of stupid to fix it there, but there you go. Anyway, it's a little bit, there's a pause as I go over the spreader where I have to do a little climbing maneuver to get on top of the spreader, and then it's onwards and upwards with the same experience to be had as I go past the radar reflector, and eventually get to the second spreaders or the top spreaders, which are only maybe 3 or 4 meters below the top of the mast. So, by the time I get up there, I'm really starting to climb into the world of the stars, as it were. So one of the things I'm trying to do with this channel is not only show my lifestyle, which is a little bit different from the norm, but I look at a lot of different sailing channels, YouTube channels, and many times, the majority of times, I'm left with a feeling that it's pretty unreal what I'm looking at. It's always in good weather. It's always about, well, I won't go into it, but what I'm trying to do in this channel is show you the authentic lifestyle of doing it in a climate that's not absolutely brilliant and sunny all the time, where the winds can get heavy and the rain can fall continuously for long times, and it's not all a bed of roses and bikinis and cocktails. It's I'm trying to get a much more authentic message of what this is all about across, so that anybody considering taking up this lifestyle gets a feel for what it is they're actually getting themselves into, particularly in a more northerly latitude like Scotland. I've spent a long time in this video going up and down the mast, and I could see that somebody might say, well, a couple of things there, why don't you have a helper to wind you up and lower you down off the mast? And well, I do things by myself, and I do things for myself, and I don't like to be dependent on others for anything more than is absolutely necessary. And the other thing is, there's a great satisfaction of being able to do this stuff for myself. As I mentioned earlier, I'm not a young man anymore, but I'm still fit and well able to do this kind of thing, and I think that helps keep me fit. And it helps keep me of a good frame of mind with regard to life in general, because I don't feel that I've grown old and become sedentary and I'm wasting my life away. I'm still living a life of adventure and a life of self-fulfillment, and I still, on a week by week, month by month basis, find myself doing things that at one point I never thought I perhaps really could do. So I'm all about, forget about how old you are, it's the kind of attitude you have and the kind of lifestyle you have. Now, I've made efforts to keep myself fit. I eat well, I don't consume much in the way of alcohol at all. I don't eat much in the way of processed foods. I eat organically. I drink lots of water. I get good rest. I live a stress-free lifestyle as much as I possibly can. I don't run a car anymore because it's just an inconvenience when you live in a boat to have a car. And so I avoid a lot of the complexities, the unhealthy complexities of modern day life. There's a price I pay for that, and the price is that a lot of things that I do for myself on a daily basis, if I were living the lifestyle that I used to live in times gone by, I'd have a dishwasher to wash the dishes, for example. Now I've learned to take pleasure out of washing dishes. And simple day-to-day tasks like that, I've learned to be in the moment and enjoy the moment, and I've found a peace. And the calm has descended on my life in a way that it never did in the past. And I'm grateful for that. So as I ascend further up the mast, you can see the vistas are opening up in front of me. I mean, here we are at the top of the radar reflector, and it's just gorgeous views all around. Of course, I picked a nice day for doing this, but looking down at the boat, you can see it's starting to look a ways down there, and I have a great view from up here. A lot of channels use drones. Why use a drone when you can just go climb the mast? No, I jest, but it is a nice view and a different perspective on the harbour. To see it as a bird in flight, you would see it, or if you were airborne. It's always interesting looking down on the boat from up the mast, because the boat looks, as I get higher up the mast, the boat looks smaller and smaller, and now I'm getting very close to the top of the mast. We're within 2 or 3 meters of the top now, and as you can see, looking down on the boat, it's starting to look small. Once I get to the top, I'll be examining the remains of the old tricolour and assessing what I need to bring up with me next time around in order to fit the new one. So the spreaders are always a little bit of a delay when I go up the mast, because they are a little bit more awkward to get over, especially with the lack of steps because of the aforementioned bad location installation of the steps just below the spreader. So it makes it a little bit more involved to get past the spreader and a little bit more time consuming. Once I get beyond this top spreader, then it's a final cruise to the very summit of the mast, which I'm just about to make. So here's the close-up of getting through or getting beyond the top spreader, just to give you a feel for the exact detail of that process. As I said earlier, a little bit of a delay, a little bit awkward, but no big deal. And once we're above that spreader, we're cruising for the summit. Get older. I'm speaking mountain talk here for the top of the mast, not the summit, but you get what I mean. So now we're on the final few steps up to the very top of the mast. As you can see, the boat down below is looking significantly smaller from up here, and as you can also see, the vistas around the boat are absolutely stunningly magnificent. I would say, you know, the countryside here is fantastic. It's a great day for seeing it in its full splendour. Almost. Definitely getting up there now. Almost there. So here we are, top of the mast. So I gotta take a couple of measurements up here. Seven. So, top of the mast. The mast is 60 feet high. It's equivalent to being up at the top of a 6-story building. And you can see the view's nice. There's down on the boat. Time for me to go back down now. I just had to see what was up here, get a feel for it. 7mm. One of the nice things about the Grigri device attached to my harness is that for the way down I can use it as a regular, what in climbing terms would be called a descendeur, a descent device, which allows me to, with a little lever on one hand and the line or rope in the other hand, I can lower myself at quite a significant pace compared to the speed involved, or the lack of speed involved in getting up the mast, which is why I'm able to come down at a fairly quick pace and be back on the deck. I think from top of the mast to back to deck levels probably about 2 minutes or something like that, as you'll see as we go here. Coming down. This Grigri device is something else. I'm leaving the steps out because I'm going to be coming back up here probably another couple of times to fix this light, now that I can see what the damage is. Getting there. Well, I'd just like to say thank you very much if you've made it to this point in the video. It's been a long video, this one, but I really wanted to give an authentic feel for what it's like to go up a mast, particularly quite a big mast like this one. So this is an easy mast to climb. It's got the steps. I left the steps out. Normally I would put them but fold them back in, but I'll be going up again in a few days time to replace the tricolour light. When I come back down after that, I'll put the steps back in. But I just want to say thank you very much for watching the video. If you feel so inclined, please give me a like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow, which I'm trying to do, as you can probably figure. So thanks again. Till next time, take it easy.